I mean, that is who the makers
Yeah.
are,
Yes.
what kind of intelligence. But obviously, the genuine ones are made by some very astute, high intelligence of some sort. Many of us believe that the source is some kind of intelligence from away from Earth. In other words, not people, not Earth intelligence, but from some other kind of intelligence that lives out there in the cosmos somewhere. I particularly myself favor that view.
Mm-hmm.
And when I very first became aware that there was such a thing as a crop circle, which was in a big lecture forum in Los Angeles in 1990, I saw a little notice for a lecture that was just about to happen. Luckily, I saw it before the lecture was up and over. And little description said something like, mysterious patterns in the fields of Britain. And immediately I thought, oh, fantastic, we're being communicated by somebody else, some other intelligence that we haven't, or at least I hadn't, known about before. But I was thrilled. And after 20 years now consecutively of going to England to research this myself, I still feel that this intelligence that does make the crop circles must be from somewhere else. In other words, we are being visited by some other intelligence, probably other intelligent beings manifested physically in some way, I would think. But in any event, this very planned, guided, directed force does come down and make these extraordinary patterns. And so the signs of a genuine crop circle, not made by us, are that when the plant is, or thousands of plants, are bent over, about half an inch to an inch or so above the surface of the ground, that the bend is very smooth. We call it a magical bend. It sort of bends at a 45-degree angle. And there's no cracking there at that bend. There's no breaking. There's no damage whatsoever. And that means that the bent-over plants, all millions of them in one crop circle, can continue, as they're lying along the ground now, continue to grow and to ripen and to come to full maturity. And if, however, that crop circle had been made by people, where the stalks were bent over, they would have definitely broken, and the plants would have died. And therefore, even though they're lying on the ground, like in the man-made ones that you mentioned, they don't grow. They just die. They look dead. They don't have any special energy, and that's it. You know, they die and they sort of decay in a sense, and nothing special happens to them. But with these genuine ones, the plants are just fine. In fact, some of the scientists have figured that the plants are even better off because the seeds at the head of each stalk of the plant, the seeds, if they are taken from those plants that are laid down, and if they are planted in a garden next to control plants, that would be plants from outside the crop circle, even in the same field, but not affected by the crop circle energy. The ones that came from inside the crop circle will grow typically 45 or 50% faster, stronger, heartier, taller, just more robust all the way around than the same seeds from the same crop outside of the crop circle. So something is really happening, and some people have experimented with taking some of those plants from inside crop circles and mixing them with hops, I suppose, and brewing beer, or they've made flour, wheat flour, and they've baked bread and different bakery goods, and they claim that they're much more nourishing than just regular flour made from regular wheat. So, but that, that's very, very labor intensive. So I think there hasn't been too much of that. Maybe a few people have done that on a small scale.
Crop circle beer, that's the next thing.
Yes, there has been. I've actually seen bottles of alleged, they claim,
right.
crop circle beer. And so I'm not a beer drinker. I can't attest for whether it tastes different or better or not, but they claim it does. But anyway, these plants are just fine and produce a wonderful new crop. So it seems like there's actually a beneficial effect for these crop circles. Now, with the man-made ones, the plants, as I said, just die. And if you planted those seeds, they wouldn't even propagate any crop at all, any new crop. So another outstanding difference here is that the genuine crop circles actually have energy, increased energy in them. The man-made ones do not have any change of energy. But they do have kind of at least for somebody like myself who's visited hundreds and hundreds of crop circles over these years, we can feel that a certain crop circle feels sort of flat and dead, and that turns out to be a man-made one. Whereas with these genuine ones, many of us can actually physically feel an increase of energy around us in that crop circle. And it can also be measured in a way. Some people will go into a crop circle with an electrostatic voltmeter, and that has a nice dial on it, nice and clear. It's a handheld device, and you can actually see the dial, the needle on the dial, going up, 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 up in the crop circle, and in the most energized portion of the crop circle, which is usually the swirled center, if there is a swirled center in that pattern. The needle will just go way up to the far end. In other words, registering more and more energy. And some of us, like myself, go in with dowsing rods. And that's really interesting. And it's fun, and it works for anybody. It's not just that it works for me. I've lent my dowsing rods to many people along the way who said, "Oh, could I try that?" And they get the same results. So in other words, if you're walking along the tractor track from the edge of the field to where you can see that there's a crop circle out there, way out there in the middle of the field, and if I'm holding my dowsing rods straight and parallel, they will not move at all. But when I am about 1 or 2 feet from the outside of the crop circle, just about there, they start to open up a little bit. In other words, I can feel a difference of energy. And then when I step into the crop circle, within a second or two, they really open right up. And when I get to the most energized part of the crop circle, and there could be 2 or 3 areas that are particularly energized in a large crop circle, those dowsing rods they want to swing all the way around 360 degrees, but my body's in the way, so they bump into my body. But you can see that they're registering, very, very strong energy.
Now, sorry, I just wanted to ask you that. Does that then mean to you that the dowsing rods are picking up on the ley lines, the energetic lines that meet underneath the crop circle? Because, as you said, many of them might actually end up on those specific spots. Or does it mean to you that it's actually the crop circle in itself, or the residue of the energy that was involved in creating the circle, that you're picking up on?
Well, it's such a good question. Thank you. It could be both, at least in some areas of the crop circle. You see, a crop circle covers a lot more territory than any